Hey, it has been a very, very long time since I've done a vlog, and there's a lot going on, and so I can't really like catch up on everything because I don't even know what's changed since the last time I've done a vlog, but I'm always talking about what's going on like on my Facebook page and things like this, so if you guys only watch these, you might be way behind, but if you follow me in general, it's not too much, but things have changed a lot for me recently because I'm back at training full-time. If you guys are watching this in the future or something and you remember COVID, that's happening. So lots of gyms were closed down, and Kevin and I had actually gone to Chiang Mai to train with Karahat for a month. So we were away from the gym then, and then everything closed down while we were there. We came home, we quarantined ourselves before, I was training myself at home, doing live videos like this, and it feels like the past couple of months have been like a year. It's been really long. But gyms are allowed to reopen now, and I'm training regularly. I'm back to like regular training. And it's hard. It's very hard. But one of the things that's very different is that Kevin and I talked about this in a Muay Thai Bones episode, so you guys can go watch that on YouTube, or as a patron you can listen to it as a podcast. But there are no fights right now, and there haven't been since March about. And we really don't know when fights are going to start up for women. They're starting up now. Only on TV with no audience, but that's not super something that a lot of women are going to be doing. So Kevin and I kind of knew that we had to jump on the reality of this, and instead of like anxiously anticipating when fights would come back and like, oh, what am I going to do? We kind of, one, took a page out of the Diesel Noi book, which is to train regardless of whether you're going to fight or not. He would go 7 months to a year with no fight, but he would train as though he could just jump in the ring anytime. So still training really hard, but knowing that there are no fights. The project has shifted. If you guys know me, you know I fight a lot. For the past 8 years that I've been in Thailand, I've been fighting on average about every 10 to 11 days. It's slowed a little bit this past year, but I fight a lot. I have 264 fights in 7 and some change years. So we had to shift what my focus is usually of just constantly trying to find fights and opponents and going to them and all of these foci and struggles, to really focusing on what we're calling Sylvie 3.0. If you follow me, you might have seen this term Yodmoy. Yodmoy literally just means like a top fighter. Like Yod is a peak, so it's like the best fighters. So like Karahat, Diesel Noi, Nam Kabuan, these are Yodmoy. And to me, what kind of designates the Yodmoy of the Golden Age is that they have this kind of, in comic books it's called the silhouette test. In Thai they call it like charisma, sine, and it's like a expression of that person through their Muay, which is really incredible, and it's really what I want. For the longest time I was always like, I want to be good, right? Like, you'll never be good, especially in your own eyes. So understanding this Yodmoy ambition of wanting to be able to express myself through my Muay. And so the shift in my concentration has changed to Sylvie 3.0 in this like Yodmoy ambition, which Kevin and I call it growing eyes, and you really get it from going live is what they call it in wrestling, but it's like sparring and moving around in space with people. It's not hitting the bag, it's not doing drills, it's not like the hard work that I can do. You tell me to run up a hill 80 times, I will fucking do it, even if it takes me, days or something. But the hard part is the like Ruup. Ruup is like how you hold your body, or like your kind of, I don't know, composure. This is really hard. This is really, really hard to do, especially when someone is like trying to take your dignity, trying to hit you in the face, or like keep you off of them, or things like this. It's very hard to keep that Ruup when you have even your own inner critic yelling at you, and that's something that for me has been definitely something I work on. I've been working a lot on my mental training and kind of not being such a dick to myself all the time, and trying to have more of that composure over the years. But now is a time that like the water pressure around that has really been turned down because there's no fights. And so I can really, really focus on that. And what's crazy is that in the past couple of weeks, I made a commitment to sparring 10 rounds a day, which is actually really hard for me. One, because I love sparring, but I don't love sparring yet. It's hard. It's very, very hard. I get very tense. I get very down on myself. It's a difficult thing for me to do. I don't play in sparring super well yet, even when I'm sparring with someone who I'm having a lot of fun with, like Karahat. But it's difficult for me for a couple of reasons. One, the emotional side, but then even the practical side, me finding someone. It's going to be multiple people. I have to ask multiple people to spar with me to get those 10 rounds. So, you know, it's like 3 rounds with the 90-kilo guy who has control and can box spar with me lightly. And then, you know, 3 with someone who's closer to my size, but less experienced. And then, you know, 4 or 5 with Caro, who is not my size at all, but we can like do certain elements of sparring together and things like this. Like, it's totally a Frankenstein's monster version of getting that experience that I need in order to grow my eyes and in order to become Sylvie 3.0 in this project. Starting on Wednesday, today's Sunday, so it's only been like 4 days, but Yodkhunpon is back at the gym, the elbow hunter of 100 stitches, and he's incredible. He's close to my size. He's probably like, you know, 54, 55 kilos, something like this, not too much taller than me. And he has total control because he's Yodmoy. So I don't ever worry about Yodkhunpon hurting me, even though he goes very hard. I don't worry about him hurting me, but I do feel real dominance with him, which is hard, like to push through that, to be dominated for real and kind of like unable to breathe, like your head is being held underwater and you still have to like fix your Ruup and get up and be like, yeah, I can handle this. It's much harder than like getting up after getting your nose punched or something like that. Like physical pain's not that bad, but the humiliation is really difficult to deal with. So I'm working with Yodkhunpon, sparring with him 30 minutes every morning after training. So I train, and then the last thing I do in the morning before going home is 30 minutes of sparring with Yodkhunpon, which is, we're counting as 6 rounds. So that's 6 of my 10, and then I have to find people in the gym of various other skills and sizes and things like this to fill in the rest. But even just in these past couple of days with Yodkhunpon, I can feel growing in these kind of like, it is like leaps. It's just like this complete, I was not able to do that yesterday. I was not able to do that 4 months ago. I was not able to do that 2 months ago. Things that I really have been trying to do for a long time. And it's kind of like, you're just trying to get your brain to go quiet. You don't want it to get still because you'll die, but you want it to go quiet. And I feel there are these moments, it's kind of like Quicksilver or something, where everything slows down. The pace is the same. Like, I'm not actually going slower. It's not actually like, oh, bow, bow, let's go light kind of thing. Like, Yodkhunpon on the first day, he had gone home when everything first shut down for COVID. He went home to Roy-Et, which is far away from here. So he was not training at all. And so on the first day back, he was very tired. And he was like, give me 3 days and I'll be back in shape. The incredible thing is that these ex-fighters, these legends like Karahat and Yodkhunpon, they're 50, they don't work out, and yet they can spar for like an hour and not die because they know how to like pull everything into control under that pressure, which is what I'm trying to do. The Sylvie 3.0 is what they're using to be able to be out of shape and like spar for 1 or 2 hours and be able to handle that. I can handle that because I'm in really good shape all the time, but it's like, it's a shift to being able to do it because of the control elements of it. So on the first day, he was really tired. And on the second day, he just decided he was going to fucking come at me. Like, he just grabbed me in the clinch to kill me at the get-go. And for the first, like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes, it was really hard. Like, I was really, really struggling mentally and emotionally and just having to push through it. And eventually, he tired out and I was able to kind of like climb above and win in sparring or whatever the thing is. But it got much better. It got to the point where I was overwhelming him, which is kind of my fighting style. This is my like diesel Muay Thai thing, is like, you want to try to intimidate me in the first couple of rounds, that's fine. It's not going to work. I'm the long run diesel machine. Like, my rounds are really the later rounds. So it's kind of honing that. What's interesting, and this ties into my next thing that's going on right now, what's interesting is that kind of learning how to tell the narrative of a fight, which in Thailand, fights are scored narratively. It's not like just add up the points on a calculator and that's who won the fight at the end. Like, I've tried to use this example for people who might not fully understand what I'm talking about when I say that it's a narrative structure for scoring, in that, like, you kind of start telling a story early and then you have to continue telling that story or have some kind of arc all through in order for you to win the fight the way that you want to. And for Westerners, because we kind of love to just score everything equally, you can come out really hard and totally fade and still win a fight because you won like the first 2 rounds. Think of it as like watching a movie or going to like a stand-up show. If you're super funny for the first 20 minutes and then start bombing and getting like crickets for the last 20 minutes of your show, it's not a good show. Like, you actually want people laughing the most at the end of the show. You can even kind of be a little bit bad at the beginning and like warm it up. It's kind of like that. And it's including all of the audience as well. In Thai scoring, there is a, like, we are all experiencing this together. The back row is part of the audience. It's part of the experience of that fight as much as the people in the front. So you can have a comedy show where you are killing it in Oklahoma, like you're awesome, and then you do the exact same show in Nebraska and they hate it. It depends on the crowd. Like, whether it's a good show or not depends on the crowd. It's a community experience rather than like just something isolated in the ring. And I think that's really cool about Muay Thai. I like that about Muay Thai in Thailand. So when I'm sparring with Yodkhunpon and dying and then at times doing really well, the thing that I really need to be working on is my Ruup, which is this composure thing, which is like bringing my awareness into like my posture and my shoulders and like standing up so that even if I'm getting my ass kicked, I'm getting it kicked with dignity kind of thing. And it's incredibly hard to do, but it's incredibly important. And so I'm thinking about that back row, like in what I look like, even when I'm sparring. It's not about like whether I got that point back, it's whether the back row can see that I'm still controlling myself or even starting to control my opponent or that kind of thing. For the past quite a few months actually, like before everything shut down, I was already working with Ajaarn. Ajaarn is 78 years old. He was my trainer's trainer back in the golden age. He trained Gansak, he trained Lakhin. He was one of the most sought after trainers of the golden age. He's absolutely incredible. He won Trainer of the Year the same year that Gansak won Fighter of the Year, I think the first time. He's amazing. He's very gruff. He's very intense, and he loves me, which is great. But he's been working with me on things that I kind of got really frustrated with him for a while because I'm like, this is not my style. Like, he's having me do these kind of snuffing, femur, evasive, like long-armed things that I'm like, this is not my style. I can't fight like this. My opponents just run away from me. Like, you can't be super femur to someone who's running away from you. You have to be femur to someone who's coming towards you, and I'm the one who durns. So I kind of had this, like, I can't do these things that he's teaching me, which was a shitty attitude to have. Like, people have asked me many times, how do you choose your style? That's a complicated answer because you can't 100% choose your style. You have natural tendencies, and then you can kind of hone those, and then you can also kind of like expand around them. I didn't like look in a catalog and decide I wanted to be Muay Khao. I have Muay Khao tendencies, and when I discovered that that was a style, I was super excited because of my size, everyone wants me to be femur. Everyone wants me to be like evasive, dancing around like the Mighty Mouse of Muay Thai, and I can't do it. My heart's not in it. I don't like it. I'm literally unable to do it. I'm very like tank-like and still. So when I saw Muay Khao as a style, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a thing. Like what my tendency is a thing. It's not a mistake. It was a huge relief to me. And so I was able to kind of like move in that direction. That's how you find your style, is you have tendencies and then you see where the strengths of that are, and you can like really push those up, and then you can kind of like pull things around it. What Ajaarn Gimyu is doing is he's pulling those things around it. So it's like inflating a balloon. When you blow air into it, you're taking no more material than it already was, but you're just kind of expanding what the parameters of that are. And so I was like, this is against my style, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm straight. I can't ever look at the same sex and find them attractive. Like, no, it's, you have like these complicated things around it. I am not like only Muay Khao. I have capacities. There are many things that Karahat does that when I like try them and do them, they're not Muay Khao at all, but they feel really good to me. And I've found that when I'm training with some femur legends for the Muay Thai library, is like some things in non-Muay Khao style feel really good to me. And so you take those things that feel good rather than like it has to stick within your style. So my problem was that what Ajaarn Gimyu was teaching me didn't feel good to me. And so when I finally realized what it was he's actually teaching me, it started to feel really good. It took a long time for me to get it, but I get it. This is interesting. What Ajaarn Gimyu is teaching me is how to fight only 2 rounds, which is the 4th and the 5th round. So basically, instead of being like, you don't have to be Muay Khao anymore, like you don't have to clinch, you don't have to go follow people anymore, he's like, no, you do that in order to get ahead so that now you're winning, but now that you're winning, you have to be able to have these other skills to fight this way so that you don't look desperate. The first time I ever saw training how to fight late rounds was at Dejrat Gym with Ajaarn Surat. Ajaarn Surat and Ajaarn Gimyu are similar in that they're very, very intense, very like scary dudes who also really love people who work hard. So they both really, really like me, which is awesome. But at Dejrat Gym, you would have 2 people pretend it's the 5th round, and one person has to be in the lead, so they're winning already, and they have to keep their lead and stay away. And the other person is losing already, and so they have to chase after that person and try to like steal the fight. This is brilliant to like give tag roles to 2 people, because people who don't know a whole lot about Thai scoring but know a little bit about Thai scoring love to tell this story about how the first rounds don't matter and you can just dance around, and then the last round doesn't matter and you can just dance around. Kind of. Kind of. It's actually a story, so it depends how those first rounds go and how those middle rounds go to whether or not you can dance off or whether you have to be chasing in the 5th round. You don't always win. You don't always get to be the one who's dancing off in the 5th round. Sometimes you have to be the one chasing. Likewise, I'm a Muay Khao fighter. I'm a forward fighter. For years, I was already winning a fight and I was still like going forward so hard, and I would actually lose because you look desperate. You look like you don't understand that you won the fight. And so you're like telling a different story than you thought you were telling, which is interesting. So I actually have a blog post on 8limbsus.com that is the art of the 5th round. And I use one of my fights as video and kind of a study to show how I got to where I was and why I was able to dance off for part of the 5th round in order to just kind of like, I've won already and now I can just protect my lead kind of thing. It took me a long, long, long time to learn how to fight a 5th round. A long time. And it's not simple, and it's not the same every time. It's not like you've calculated this out and so you can do this. You have to feel what your corner thinks. You have to feel how your opponent is moving. You have to feel how your opponent's corner is telling her what to do. You have to feel the crowd. You have to feel the judge, like all of these different things. And it is very, very nuanced and context-oriented to that situation. So of course it's something that you would have to learn. It's something you would have to train. I don't fight backwards really well. We actually just did a session for the Muay Thai library of training with Yodkhunpon from a couple of years ago. And I had been going forward the entire time. And he's like, okay, now you've won already. Now you go backwards. I'll chase you. And after like a minute, he's like, you can't do this. Like, you would actually lose going backwards like this because you can't defend yourself. And it's a performance. So you would have to learn and train how to then become the retreating fighter who's guarding your lead, which you have to learn how to do. You can't just be like, oh, I'll figure out how to do it at the moment kind of thing. So what I finally have figured out is that what Ajaarn Gimyu is teaching me is how to fight rounds 4 and 5 when I've already won. Like, if I'm already winning, then I fight 4 and 5 the way that he's training me. He's not training me for if you've lost and now you're trying to catch up in rounds 4 and 5. I already know how to do that. I already know how to come forward. So it's part of this Sylvie 3.0 in controlling your Ruup, in understanding what's going on in the fight, and understanding how to have composure under pressure, under defeat, when you're like in your own head, all of these things. And all this time, Ajaarn Gimyu has been working with me on that, and I didn't even realize it. Like, I didn't even realize that this incredible thing that I'd seen at Dejrat Gym of 2 people playing out the roles of someone who's winning and someone who's losing and having to like play that 5th round out, that Ajaarn Gimyu, in what he was teaching me, was not trying to change my style. He's not trying to like reinvent what I am. He's trying to hone in on how to fight these 2 rounds given these circumstances, which is incredibly hard to do. And I find it really amazing and very unique to Thailand because of the way scoring works here and the vast experience he has. He'll like listen on his earphones to, he'll just listen to the gambling even though he's not gambling himself, because he needs to know how gambling is working lately, like what audiences are looking for, what they're scoring, what they like, this kind of thing, because that determines how your fighter should fight. And I think that the brilliance of learning how to fight these 2 rounds, it's totally like how, in more of a blanket sense, it's like, okay, now you need to learn how to block. Like, you drill blocking, you drill an opponent who's southpaw, or you drill an opponent who's moving this way or that way in order to kind of like fill that hole. And being able to learn the techniques that I would use so that I can perform the way I need to perform in my body in rounds 4 and 5 is amazing. And realizing that that's what Ajaarn Gimyu has been teaching me this whole time is very helpful. It's really good. So I'm good. I'm very tired. I feel like I've actually gone back a little bit to old Sylvie, even though I'm working on Sylvie 3.0, in that I'm kind of like finding my own work all the time. I'm trying to get so much sparring. I've been trying to get sparring all 8 years that I've been in Thailand. It's very hard for me because, one, I'm a woman in very male gyms, and I'm small. If you're bigger bodied, you just have more variety of people who you can work with. When you're small, it's very difficult because people will be taken off the table simply by their size, because they don't have control, because of this, because of that. And then as a woman, I'm constantly in the position where I have to be kind of like finding my own work. It's like I'm in a boat that has all these holes appearing, and I'm constantly plugging the holes, and then new holes show up, and I'm just trying to keep from sinking. And it's a Sisyphean challenge to be a woman trying to do what I'm doing in this sport, in this culture, in this world. But it's okay. It makes me stronger. It makes me really have to work for it. So I'm constantly trying to, like, again, Frankenstein's monster, like, manufacture my own opportunities out of who I can work with at the gym in order to get this done or that done. And it's never super ideal, but it's all very helpful. So I'm under construction in a very strong way right now, in that not only is the work I'm doing, like the sparring I'm doing, and growing my eyes and trying to get things to slow down and like trying to fix my Ruup under all this pressure, like physically doing all the work, but then emotionally doing all that work under the pressure of being Sylvie 2.0. I'm not Sylvie 3.0 yet. I'm trying to make this change. So I'm trying to accomplish something under the yoke of what I'm trying to get out from under. And then also I'm just unbelievably, incredibly shy and hate asking people for things. And so constantly having to ask people to help me, to work with me, to spar with me, to give me 2 rounds, 3 rounds, like this kind of thing is, it's difficult for me, but it's valuable because I know where it's leading. So I guess all of this is to say that I am on an interesting path towards Sylvie 3.0 right now. Physically, emotionally, mentally, incredibly difficult, like I like it, and with no fights, which is difficult for me because fights were part of my training all these years that I've been here, and so now that's not there. So it's kind of a give and take in that because I don't have fights, I'm able to focus more on this in particular. I've been working on this the whole time, but it kind of like got sidelined to some of the things that I was trying to do because I was getting ready for fights and traveling around all the time. So not having that and being able to really, really focus in on this is great because then I really get to focus on it. But the difficulty is that one of the reasons that this fell to the wayside because I was doing other things was not actually because of those other things. It's because it's so hard that I was making excuses with all these other things. It's like, oh, well, I can't focus super on that because I've got all these other things going on. And now those distractions my excuses are out. So I have to work really, really hard. But it's exciting. So Sylvie 3.0 is coming. That's what's going on with me. I'm going to be excellent at rounds 4 and 5. So that's exciting. Thank you guys for listening to my long vlog. I'll try to be better at making these more frequently. And yeah, I'm really grateful for everyone who's been helping me. My friend Caro just left the gym. She was here for 10 months. And she just left last night, and she is irreplaceable in a lot of ways. I might cry right now. I'm very sad that she's gone. But I have to now fill the holes in the boat that Caro was helping me with. So that's, you know, another step in this process is kind of like pulling new people into my small circle of the Sylvie 3.0 project. So that's where I'm at. Everyone stay safe. I'll talk to you hopefully sooner rather than later.